Hello, everybody. It is Monday, February 27th, and welcome to episode 83 of Buds and Blue Jays, your place all season long for everything related to the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm your host, Jesse Burrell, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Riley McConnell. And today on our show, spring training games have started, and the optimism for the Blue Jays this year is sky high. And we'll talk about some of the key performances and what they mean for this team going forward that we've seen from the 3 games so far. Plus, the Blue Jays have announced their promotional giveaways, and we got some pretty big front office news to get into as well. But first, guys, before we get into it, remember, our show is free, and we're available on all platforms. So if you're watching us on YouTube, please like the video, guys, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're rapidly growing, and we want you to be part of that first crew that gets in here with us. And if you're listening to us on Podcast Land, leave us a 5-star review. It really is the best way to help the show grow. Formalities out of the way, Riley. What's up, man? How are you today?
Jesse, I'm good. I'm excited for this one. It's been a long winter, man. It's been a long winter. We finally have some baseball to talk about. We finally get to talk about the good stuff, why we're here, why we're doing this, Jesse. And that's to talk about the actual on-field stuff. We're limited right now. We're early in spring training. Only got 3 games in right now. But you know what? 3 games is a lot more to talk about than no ball games at all since our departure in the fall. So, I mean, let's roll with it, man. There's really a lot to talk about in the small sample sizes, what we got. Some good takeaways, some not good takeaways, man. It's just good to be back talking about actual baseball. I mean, we sit here in the wintertime and we try and give you as much content as we can. Blue Jays have a great team history and things like that, but absolutely. But we're here. We want to build a future squad, and 2023 Blue Jays, we'll see what they can do for us, man. 3 spring training games in, and a lot more ball to go. All
right. Well, last episode, we went into our spring training preview. We talked about what things you should be looking for and what things you shouldn't be looking for in camp. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and check out that episode, please. But let's kind of get into a little bit of what our main takeaways were from the 3 games that we have this spring. And, let's take everything with a grain of salt still. Everything we're about to say, with the caveat, small sample size, 3 games. Yes, we know that. But there are some things you can take away, right? For example, last spring, Riley, Santiago Espinal was having exit velocities higher than he had ever had in his career, right? And that led to him having a career high in home runs this season and an all-star appearance along the way. So there are a few small things you can take of going forward. And I think the Blue Jays have a ton of that here. And I want to dive into the first player that really, really stood out to me this spring, and that was on our debut, and that was my guy with his jersey back there. That was Yusei Kikuchi, Riley. Now, take this with a massive grain of salt, but his first spring training start this year, Riley, looked awesome. He had only pitched 2 innings against the Pirates. Now, I know it's the Pirates, and I know it wasn't even the Pittsburgh Pirates A lineup, but he only allowed 1 hit, which was on a weak infield single, and a mind-blowing, Riley, 14 swinging strikes on his 33 pitches. Like, Riley, Yusei Kikuchi only had 1 appearance all of last year where he had 14 or more swinging strikes, and he did that in 2 innings against the Pirates today. He looked really, really good, Riley. So I'm going to give you the word here for what you want to say about Yusei Kikuchi. What does this mean for him going forward?
So going forward, there's a lot to look forward to. He's obviously worked on his craft quite a bit. Jesse, a lot of swing and misses. Anytime you're on the bump pitching, I don't care about what lineup it is, but, the guys are good enough that they can get bad on ball, be pesky at bats. But Yusei Kikuchi just seemed to miss a lot of bats, only giving up 1 hit, striking out 5 batters. And yes, of course, 14 swings and misses. That's really good stuff out of Mr. Kikuchi because, last year, we got him 3-year deal, and he is, he really let us down. Jesse, he really let us down, and there was a big question mark. He ended up going to the bullpen for a bit. I really hope, and I think that this continues, maybe not to the degree of 14 swinging strikes every time he goes out over 2 innings. I mean, come on, that's just a really, really good way to start. He's really showed us what he can do, and we know what he can do. But I mean, it's about the consistencies, Jesse.
That's the thing. Yes.
Do I see this being a trend, Jesse? Of course, a little bit, but there's always going to be the odd hiccup. I'm looking forward to seeing his second outing, but of course, 2 innings. you're not going to get a lot of, not a lot to really say, but over that small sample size, Jesse, all you can really say is he looked great out there.
So, Riley, what were the things we were saying last year when Yusei Kikuchi was struggling, right? We were saying stuff like, well, his fastball is getting crushed. His misses are very uncompetitive pitches. Like he's either leaving things right down the middle of the plate, or it's 5 feet over the catcher's head, or it's bouncing before he gets there. Now, I do want to throw a little bit of cold water on this because his fastball wasn't that good, right? He threw 8 fastballs, and only 2 of them, Riley, were for strikes, and one of them was dead center of the plate. So maybe Yusei Kikuchi hasn't completely turned a corner yet, but he did have a quote here, and we saw during his pregame warmups and stuff that he was trying to initiate a curveball, and he broke it out in this appearance here. And his quote that Yusei Kikuchi gave about adding a curveball to his repertoire was this. He says, quote, "I'm focusing on a strike percentage with the breaking ball," Yusei Kikuchi said to a club interpreter. Last season, he was focusing on strike percentage with his fastball. This season, he's going with off-speed pitches, and that's what changed. And if you look at the pitch map here, Riley, and I'll put it up on screen for you guys watching on YouTube, you can see where he was locating his slider and his curveball, and all of those pitches were down and in to a right-hand hitter, either on the plate or off the plate. And if Yusei Kikuchi can be one of these guys who consistently can throw strikes with his off-speed pitches, maybe he can use his fastball more as a change of pace thing and kind of be more of a strikeout pitch. So kind of changing to be more of a slider, like a curveball first guy, then a fastball coming out second. And I think that is going to be how Yusei Kikuchi is going to find success this year.
So the good thing about almost having your fastball in your secondary pitches, you don't actually have to locate your fastball as good as if it's your primary pitch, but you got to make dang sure that those other pitches are working for you. Obviously, the fastball is the tried and true pitch in baseball, man. You just got to make sure that your other pitches are working for you in that respective. But yeah, he looked great. And it sounds like there's a lot more to come from it. I mean, if we can see that curveball, if we can see the good cutter slider action out of Yusei Kikuchi, I mean, then yeah, he's a good left-handed. He's a hard throwing left-handed pitcher, and I mean, he's got a lot to showcase, man. So far, so good. That's all I have to say on that. So far, so good, Jesse, and it's real good so far.
Yes, let's get out and take a look and see how he does in the second start. If he continues on this and builds momentum, it's going to be a good thing going forward. But hey, his first spring training start last year, 2 innings pitched, 4 strikeouts, 1 walk. So he was good then too. So let's take it with a grain of salt and see how it goes going forward here. Riley, you wanted to talk about another Blue Jay player who's really caught your eye in this first 3 games of the spring, and who would that be?
Well, I said it on the last one, man. If your eyes were glued to Kikuchi on the bump, I mean, you got to talk about our guy at the plate, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. 100%. So far, it's not disappointed, Jesse. He wasn't in the lineup today against the Braves. I mean, but a home run in the games against Pittsburgh and the Yankees. So, Jesse, that's a pretty good rate of home runs. And then I could think there was another flyout in the game as well. It's nothing like, what we thought. I mean, I think the first at-bats resulted in a ground out, and we probably threw our remote controls or phones or whatever we were watching it on. But hey, we figured out the swing, and it turned around quite quickly. And yeah, dude, we're only going to go as far as Vladimir Guerrero Jr. takes us. I mean, we got a lot of good players on this team, man. But Vladdy's a real superstar. And if we go back and do something like he did in 2021 for us, I mean, we got better pieces now to surround him with. And if he's hitting in the lineup for us at what we know he can do, and the guys around him also putting up numbers, I mean, we're a lethal team that way. We got some of the best homegrown players in the league. It starts with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He's looked good at the dish in the first couple games. And I mean, I think it continues. I really think it continues. He's obviously made some adjustments. We were talking about that. Has he made adjustments? What kind of swingers are we going to see? I mean, I've tried to look at the swing. There's not much difference in my head at what he's actually doing at the plate. Where he's just kind of making contact with the ball. He does have a very hard swing, whether he is kind of slowing his swing down or kind of taking it off. So, I mean, I just liked, it's just the things you like to see, man. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hitting 2 home runs in 2 games is an awfully good start in spring training.
Yeah, man, Vladdy, save some for the regular season here, will ya? Like, get him going for us when these games count. But hey, 2 games played, 2 home runs. His first one, Riley, 432 feet off a 96 mile per hour fastball from David Bednar, who was a good pitcher. Like, he's an all-star that Vladdy did that too. Now, here's a quote from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. about his swings. And he says, hey, you know, my timing feels good. But then he went on and added, like, look, these are the first at-bats of spring training. They don't mean anything. Once I can get my swing off consistently and do it for weeks at a time, then I will tell you I'm ready and in a good place. So a guy who's already mashing, being this modest, kind of makes you feel like there's still more to come or still more work to do from Vladdy as he prepares for the WBC and the rest of the Blue Jays season.
I mean, you got to say stuff like that, though. Vladdy's the type of player where, you know, the spotlight is on him a lot of the times. Mm-hmm. And yes, he's got the World Baseball Classic coming up and still a few more spring training at bats in the Toronto Blue Jays, or like with us before departing. He's going to get some more at bats, and my concern level wouldn't actually be, you know, that low if he does go 0 for 8 on his next at bats. But what are those 8 at bats, Jesse? Yeah. That's the thing, right? I mean, 4 ground outs, a strikeout, and 1 flyout. That'd be cause for concern. You know, 3 flyouts and 2 groundouts. I would take a number like 100%. That.
Me too.
Yep. I mean, it's a heck of an improvement from last year, anyways. I mean, he took some pretty big hacks. I think there was 1 good swing and miss. Vladdy's not a guy who's going to strike out a lot against, you know, a non-MLB poised arm. But yeah, took Bednar deep in the game against Pittsburgh, and then looked awfully good in the Yankees game. It makes you think, Jesse, that there is more to come from Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and we know that there's more to come. Yes, I mean, we know what this guy can do, and he's going to perform. No matter what, to some extent, you know, whether the numbers reflect that or not, he's going to hit the ball, and he's going to hit the ball hard. And that's he's going to bat the ball into play. And whether that's an out, or whether that's a hit, or whether it's a home run, well, we will see and wait with full anticipation, because I am in. But again, you want to talk about it, we'll go back to our thumbs up. Certainly, right off the bat, Jesse, my 2 hands, my 2 thumbs, 1 goes to your guy Kikuchi, 1 goes to Vladimir Guerrero Jr., man, because I mean, it's a good start. 3 games in, but you know what? It gives you some good hope for the year, and I think a lot of guys are on board. You could be torn with Kikuchi, but seeing the 2 home runs out of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is great.
I'm with you, my guy. Let's see more of it going forward, and just stay healthy, please, Vladdy. We need you to dominate this season. Another guy who has really impressed me this spring and has impressed a lot of Blue Jays fans, and actually has a lot of Blue Jays fans talking like crazy, is Addison Barger. And Riley, off the top of your head, if you had to say who had the sweetest left-handed swing in Blue Jays history, who would you say?
Oh, well, I mean, hey, I really like Delgado's swing. Sure. Delgado had a real good swing. Changing my answer right off the bat, though. I don't know if you know what I'm gonna say, but when I say it, it'll make sense. Colby Rasmus, I think, is my favorite left-handed Blue Jays swing of all time. Got to be Colby Rasmus.
It was always very pretty to see that big uppercut swing. But I will bet it won't take long until you see Addison Barger on this list as one of the sweet left-handed in Blue Jays history, because he is great. And I love a big leg kick, and Addison Barger has that big leg kick. And when he connects and barrels a baseball up, it looks phenomenal. And this guy, look, we talked about him coming into our last episode here. It's like he tore up the minor leagues. He started in A-ball, made it all the way up to Buffalo, and had an OPS plus over 9, or an OPS over 900. Like, he was really good. And right now he is on the 40-man roster. He is competing for a spot on this bench. And I think he's impressed enough in camp so far to, on merit, get a spot on this bench, right? He had a majestic home run in the first game. He turned around a 95.5 mile per hour heater, hit it 382 feet, 105 miles per hour off the bat, also off David Bednar, an all-star. And even John Schneider said some things about him, and he was like, hey, this guy's a little raw still, but if he keeps hitting home runs off Major League Baseball all-stars, we have to take note. And there is a chance he might be on this team opening day.
I really am hoping that he is a good player for this team right now. A decent guy, multi-position guy. As to where he will play primarily, I really don't know. He's a guy who could give a lot of guys a day off, though, and that's the important thing, because obviously this guy's not set on being a major league starter right now. This is Addison Barger's big breakthrough right now. I would say this is an important time for this young man in this organization, because he's really turning some heads and really making a lot of us guys think, Jesse, that we were talking, whether it was last episode, the episode before, the kind of the final roster spot guy, or a guy would be a good player off the bench. And right now, like, my mind is totally on Barger. I mean, it's almost like there's a lot of guys that have caught my eye, but none more than him. And I mean, if this continues, I mean, at this rate, this level right now, obviously we're talking small sample sizes, but he's a guy that you almost start on your opening day roster if this continues, Jesse, and then go from there, right? Like, you don't start the season, playing him 18 innings in the first 2 games. You're going to space this guy out. He might play 3 or 4 weeks and then get a taste of how this guy does at the major league level. But this is a guy that if he keeps performing, Jesse, and if he keeps showing up and showing that he can play in the big leagues, man, that he might not get sent down again. I mean, that's a little bit of a stretch right now, but the way he's been playing, man, he is certainly on that trajectory to play himself as a major league player, whether that be a bench player or a situational guy. Certainly a little bit out of the question right now of the role of a starter, but he's certainly proving that he is really fighting for a spot on this team. And I think that there's quite a good chance right now that he is on the 26-man roster come opening day.
So you see this sometimes with guys in the minor leagues who might not have been the best prospects on lists, but they just find something that clicks and they start hitting and they never stop. Like Juan Soto was this guy. Now, I'm not comparing Addison Barger to Juan Soto. That would be insane to do so. However, Juan Soto was never like a super high-end prospect, but all of a sudden he just learned how to hit and he never stopped. Addison Barger could be a guy like that who, once he gets it figured out, he could just go, because he did it in New Hampshire. He did it in Buffalo. He's doing it this spring. He might be able to do it so far when he gets to the majors. And if that is the case, we do get a breakout player here. Watch out, because he could be a real guy for this team.
Yeah, I mean, just another good swing, like you said. I don't know, but you know what? I'm not a huge leg kick guy, but it is a nice swing. I always thought that the leg kick could throw a guy off, especially a young player. Nowadays, you don't really teach players to do the big leg kick. That's kind of a non-thing. You kind of learn it on your own. Back in the, maybe the 1940s and 50s. Come on, Timmy, your leg kick isn't high enough, to hit those baseballs. Nowadays, you kind of want to you teach the younger guys and high school, and then going into college, you teach them kind of to just kind of weight transfer. But yeah, he's got a big leg kick, but he's making it work, dude. It's a nice thing to see. Yeah, I don't know, Jesse. This guy in my head, I'm trying to, when you were going on and talking there, I was trying to think of other guys, because there is other guys that will be fighting with Barger in spring training over possibly the final spot. And I still, in my head, I'm giving Barger the upper edge right now, and I hope it continues, because it's a good thing to watch, man. Because another lefty bat in the lineup, man, would be fantastic.
And I think, yeah. It's only 3 games into spring, but I think he's the leading edge right now. We'll see. We'll follow this more as it goes on going through spring. Riley, one other guy who you and I have talked about quite a bit on this show, that is nasty Nate Pearson, Riley, and he's 25, right? The shine is off Nate Pearson, right? Top prospect people are not talking about this guy anymore, but he's healthy right now. He's pitching in spring. And here's what he did in his debut. He went 1 inning. He did give up 2 hits. He did walk 2 batters, gave up a run, but he struck out 3 on his 31 pitches. And his fastball, Riley, explosive, averaging 97.8 miles per hour. He had a fastball at 100.8. So let's round up to 101 miles per hour, which was the 9th hardest fastball he's thrown his career. And he just did that on February 25th or whatever date it was when we started. Still, also, he got 4 whiffs, on his 9 swings batters took against him. And we saw him pair it too with the hammer 79 mile per hour curveball, which had me salivating when I watch Nate Pearson pitch. So you can look at it two ways, Riley. You can look at the tools, which is how I've always looked at Nate Pearson, and see this guy who can be nasty. But you could also look at it and be like, well, he walked 2 guys, he gave up 2 hard hit balls in an inning, and that's not what you want for a reliever. So, Riley, what are your thoughts here on Nate Pearson's first spring training outfit?
So my takeaways, man, is I mean, you want to talk about Nate Pearson's pitches. I mean, the first thing that comes into your head is that hard fastball. The problem I had with the fastball, I mean, the pitch that was 101 or 100.8, it was high out of the zone. I mean, that's fine and dandy to throw that hard, but you got to, like I said, I like to, maybe substitute a little bit of velocity for some control. But Jesse, that curveball looked, that curveball to get guys off speed, off balance. I mean, look out, man. I mean, it was great. He seemed to locate it pretty good. I mean, we're talking February, right? There's Nate Pearson is a guy that we've seen grow. It's not like he, like you said, 25, he's spent time in the major leagues. Like we've seen this guy. This guy keeps refining himself and then has these setbacks due to injuries. So yeah, Jesse, I'm totally on the Nate Pearson train right now.
Welcome aboard, my guy. Choo. Let's go.
Hey, man, the problem is hey, man, if I had it my way, he would have been the ace of this team when he turned 23.
Sure.
There's just so many hiccups in the game, man. But yeah, I'm fine we're talking relief pitchers. We're talking a low leverage relief pitcher right now. I'm totally fine with Nate Pearson being that guy. Yes, 2 hard hit balls and 2 walks are not what you want to see, man. But I think that can be tinkered with. I think there's small repairs to be made to turn that into maybe a line out, a ground out, and 1 walk, and to turn the strikeout into maybe a weak contact ground ball or something. There's ways to go around and kind of figure out his pitching performance there. But yeah, his first appearance, and I mean the eyes were again. The eyes are on a lot of guys. There's a lot of storylines for this Blue Jays team going into this year. Nate Pearson is certainly one of them, because you want to cheer for him. You want to see him do well. And I mean, it definitely was not a failed appearance. It definitely didn't go perfectly, but I think there's a lot of good to take away from this. There's some bad, which is pitch location, but the good is that, yeah, he can throw absolute gas, and the breaking ball looked fantastic. Absolutely looked fantastic.
So where do you stand, Riley, on our 29.5 over-unders? I said over, you said under. Are you leaning towards the over now? Have I convinced you, or has this appearance convinced you?
I'm never a Blue Jays pessimist, but there's always a will and a way for someone to play themselves out of a spot. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I am a man of my words, and I'm a stubborn boy, Jesse, and I'm sticking to what I said. If I lose, if I lose the bet, I lose the bet. I'm rooting for him to do well, man. It's just the likelihood and what I think is actually going to happen. Again, we will see. This will not be the last time we see Mr. Pearson take the bump in a spring training game for the Blue Jays. This is someone that the Blue Jays staff, the Blue Jays players, everybody wants to see this guy and wants to see this guy well, because you want to use it. He's got the tools, man. You want to use an effective arm like Nate Pearson.
All right, some other player notes I want to get into here, as Tim Meza started a bullpen day against the Yankees there, against a very weak Yankees lineup too at that, and he struggled in his spot start. But this is going back to what we said at the start of last episode, like, hey, don't really judge player performance based on things, because sometimes players are just working on things, right? And he gave up 3 hits and 1 earned run, and all 3 hits off of Tim Meza were hit 95 miles per hour or harder, and his slider was down 4 miles per hour to 84 when it usually sits about 87. So a lot of people were asked, but Tim Meza just said, he's like, yep, I'm just trying to get a new shape on my slider, try to throw it slower, try to get it to loop more. So this was something that Tim Meza was doing intentionally. And this is kind of why, going back to what we said last episode, where you got to take these spring training results with a grain of salt, because Tim Meza was just trying something new with the slider here.
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably why we haven't I haven't brought him up to this point anyways. Like that, I wasn't too concerned about a guy like Meza going out there, and if you need to make adjustments, that's fine. And yeah, say that. It doesn't sound like he was concerned either, or a lot of players were. Tim Meza is going to be pitching. He's our left-handed option out of the bullpen. So yeah, and a good slider against the left-handed bat. I would rather. That's an important pitch for us. You want to talk about every pitcher and their pitches throughout the bullpen. A good Tim Meza slider will be very important down the stretch.
Yep.
I know they took away you got to face 3 batters and all this. Tim Mays, of course, would have made out as a perfect left-handed specialist.
A loogie.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So figure it out, figure out your craft. I mean, I don't know what you have next, but I'm just going to jump on this now that we're on the talk of bullpen arms, because as I was not concerned with the performance of Tim Mesa, what I was concerned, I kind of have a list, and there's, I think, Jesse, I think I have 4 guys I really took into consideration. The guys that, I mean, look, I want to just get first and foremost, I almost should have let off with this. I thought that Pittsburgh game, it's the first game of spring training on both sides, Pittsburgh and us. I thought it was a sloppy game. I thought Pittsburgh
first game of spring, right?
First, hey, I know. I just want to say that it looked sloppy and a little bit us. We kind of slept on the Yankees there. I mean, you had that 20-whatever-year-old Volpe stealing bases. I know it was Brantley. He didn't look too sharp there, but let's go on to pitchers. So yes, wasn't too concerned with Mesa, but Julian and Junior Fernandez, both to me did not look that good. And same with I had another name. Well, first of all, I wanted to save him for last. Zach Thompson, to me,
he struggled.
Another guy who really struggled. There was another guy on that list. I can't remember it. There's another
Bard,
guy. Yes. And Colorado too. How could I forget Luke Bard? Yes, Luke Bard. He might have had the worst performance out of anybody in the 3 games, man.
Mm-hmm.
That was not good at all. That was like you want to talk about guys getting hit hard. Like Pearson, he got hit around hard, but did other things really well. Like Luke Bard did terrible. I thought Matt Peacock did a good job coming in after to deal with that and probably not a scheduled appearance or whatever. He was probably bound to pitch next in the ball game anyways.
Probably,
I thought Matt Peacock at least kind of closed the door a little bit, but Luke Bard and the 2 Fernandezes for me, I mean, they're a long shot on the roster anyways, but just appearances like that where almost it just seems like nothing goes right. I mean, that's kind of what it was like, man, where, I mean, you got, first of all, 2 home runs in a row, 3 hits in a row on Bard. And it seems like, I think it was Julian Fernandez throw a 98, but couldn't find the strike zone for a bit there and let himself into a heap of trouble. Anyways, I know it's a spring, man, but the things you take away as I sit here and pick apart these 3 baseball games, because there's nothing else to talk about, which is fine. They're in our organization. We could talk about these guys, but I mean, total long shots. Zach Thompson, though, a guy who might, have the greatest chance of making the team out of those 4 guys that were just named is kind of down on the list now. And we'll see kind of how is those guys' next appearances go? Because that's the thing to watch, right? You're not going to cut a player right after their first big blow up. It's going to take a little bit more. But things you don't really want to see. Of course, ideally, Jesse, you want to go out and no hit every single ball club you play, but that just doesn't happen, man. But when you kind of get 2 pitchers consecutively throwing two bad innings of ball, it's not great. It's hard to watch at times, but I mean, hey, 3 games in, that's just my thought, Jesse. I think last year I was a little bit easy on the pitchers. I want to be a little bit harder this year, even in the spring, dude. I want to well, look what happened. I want to tighten it up just a little bit. I want to make sure that we got the right guys on the hill.
We demand excellence at Buds and Blue Jays over here. But I also want to add Drew Hutchinson to that list as well, who struggled in his start against Atlanta today too. But Riley, I do want to say, if you are going to have players struggle in spring training, this is kind of the group of player you're okay seeing struggling, right? Like none of these guys are probably going to be on the team opening day anyway. They're all likely going to go to Buffalo. And I think we'd rather see the guys that we know are going to be in the rotation, like Kikuchi, or some of the guys that we know are going to be in the bullpen. You want to see them perform anyway. So I'm actually not taking this as too big of a takeaway here, especially if Mitch White comes back and can be healthy and can be effective. I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, no, all I meant is I think that they just kind of are playing themselves out of a roster spot More disappointed in Zach Thompson, though, because I think he has a legitimate chance of making this team. Just hope he can tidy it up.
I think so too. And let's keep an eye on that going forward here. Some smaller news and notes here. Santiago Espinal went deep, so he had a good spring last year. Good to see him here. LJ Talley went deep. And honestly, Riley, we're Blue Jays nuts. LJ Talley? Sure. Or Elvis Martinez had a double down the line, and Spencer Horowitz had 2 hits today. And Deshaun Brown, Riley, who was a guy you mentioned on our prospect episode that you were keen on watching this spring, had a hit in his first at bat and looked good doing so. But I want to highlight Elvis Martinez here because Zips, which is a player's projection system they run at Fangraphs, ran the projections on a bunch of prospects in the top 100, and they had Elvis Martinez's to be the 5th best in all of the prospects next year. That's better than guys like Yuri Perez, who's a top pitching prospect with the Marlins, Jordan Walker, who's likely going to make the Cardinals out of camp. That's better than Ricky Tiedemann, Riley, who we've been talking up all time, Andrew Painter, Grayson Rodriguez, and Masataka Yoshida, who's the guy coming over from Japan and Boston. They like Elvis Martinez more than all of those guys. So keep that going forward as we pay attention to here. Those names, Riley, anything catch your eye?
Yeah, well, I like Elvis Martinez more than those guys too, so the list makes sense to me. Yeah. It's not a surprise, man. I mean, he's a good young infielder, and another guy we're gonna get a look at. But he's still so young. We can send this guy down again and it not really be a big issue. And then at some point in the year, I mean, you can always call him up. I mean, he's full of options, and
on the 40 man.
I mean, I'm not sad about if we had to send him down because he's a real future bringer for me to this team, right? Like, I mean, well, not to get totally into this right now, but Bo Bichette just signed a 3-year, contract. Tick, tick, tick in my head for 3 years. Elvis Martinez. Let's see how that lines up, Jesse, because I mean, Elvis Martinez will be a major league infielder, whether that be at the position of short, yet to be determined, but we will see. I mean, because I mean, that's kind of A to B right there for me. Let's protect this guy at all costs, because we could really use him as a future piece for this ball club. Of course, Jesse, if he is going to be so impactful that you can simply just not take him off of the 26-man roster, then that's different. But I think at this point, you just kind of roll with the punches. He's still really young. I mean, the Buffalo is still a really, really good option for him at this point, and I think that's a safe bet.
Yeah, likely go back to New Hampshire, but if he rakes there, he'll be in Buffalo, and maybe he gets a cup of coffee towards the end of the year, like guys like Otto Lopez did this year for the Toronto Blue Jays. Riley, any other main takeaways from the 3 games that you saw that you wanted to make sure you mention here?
No, I think we got quite a bit. I'll tell you though, the battle at second base is going to be quite thrilling, to say the least. Honestly, I mean, they all have hits. I think right now, I was leaning more towards Whit Merrifield, but I think Espy's been doing fantastic. He's hitting the ball to all fields, and he's hitting with a little bit of pop. So I mean, hey man, that's real good too. And yeah, I guess you can't really rule out Biggio, and the fact that he started at first base makes me think that he's probably not going to be the starting second baseman, but there's a really good chance he plays a lot of the right side of the ball diamond positions, right field, first and second, kind of that Makes utility sense. Player, that slice of the pie. So I think he does that a bit. Like Brantley dropped a hit in, which is good. It's always nice to see a backup catcher kind of caliber player drop a hit in, at least, not just go down 3 times on strike. Pitchers. I was, to be honest, Jesse, the younger guys come up and I don't always pay full attention, but certainly the pitchers I was on, I already gave my little spiel about that, but it's still real early, man. And like right off the bat, Kikuchi looks fantastic in his 2 innings pitched, and Vladdy 2 home runs. And watch Addison Barger, because I mean he's not done. He's just starting to build up his bag of tricks. Let's see what else this kid's got.
All right, some news and notes here. Alejandro Kirk, Riley, is still not in camp, as him and his wife are still expecting the birth of a child. And because of this, he had to withdraw from Team Mexico for the World Baseball Classic. So as soon as him and his wife have their child, he will be reporting to Toronto Blue Jays. He will be staying in Dunedin. Now, I only bring this up are we getting concerned at all now? Because we're 2 weeks past pitchers and catchers reporting, and spring training for the hitters doesn't mean a whole lot, but for the guys like the pitchers and the catchers, spring training means a lot, especially with a lot of the new arms that are in Blue Jays camp here. Like, don't you want them throwing to Alejandro Kirk so Kirk can kind of figure it out? And I wonder if this means, Riley, maybe we see a little more Danny Jansen at the start of the year behind the plate, and maybe Kirk will just catch guys like Gosman and Manoah, or guys he already knows. Too. At what point do we become concerned that Kirk is not in camp?
So, I mean, to start, full disclosure, I am fine with him taking the personal time off.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I know you are too. I just want to make sure our listeners, our viewers all know that we are not poo-pooing Kirk. I mean, there's a difference between baseball and life for sure. And this is the part of life where you have to take time away from the game. Now, Jesse, as far as the baseball side of things go, yeah, it's really too bad that he has to withdraw from Mexico. We really need him at camp though, and I would not be surprised if we use Jansen a little bit more than maybe we thought. I mean, I'm still at this point, I was wide open to kind of interpret who is going to catch, like who and how they would share the workload. I think as of right now, yeah, you're probably going 3 games Jansen, 2 games Kirk if he comes to camp. I mean, still real soon, like, right? Because I mean, catcher's an important position. You're the catalyst on the field. You're the signal caller. You call the shots, man. I mean, we need, and you know, this is going to be an important year for Alejandro Kirk, and he will get to camp eventually here. He will get things sorted out. And of course, with a newborn on the way, that takes priority, but we're definitely eager for him to return to the baseball side of life, we'll say.
Yeah, we'll see him in camp. I can't expect to be in too much longer now, but you never know with these complications. Things always come up. Manny Machado just signed a massive contract extension with the Padres, and I'm only bringing this up because it now means that Matt Chapman is the best potential free agent third baseman available. And aside from Shohei Ohtani, who's a free agent next year, there really isn't a big free agent class. So I think the interest in Matt Chapman will be there, and I feel like he is a Scott Boras client, and like over his history, Scott Boras clients do end up going to free agency. So I don't think there's a lot of hope for a Matt Chapman extension unless the Blue Jays just blow him away. So I guess we're going into the season, Riley. This is a Matt Chapman contract year. We've seen players put up big years before in contract years. So hopefully we can get that out of Matt Chapman because it's not out of the question here. And maybe this is what we save Barger for, or Elvis Martinez takes a big step forward and we replace them in third base. I guess you don't have to think too much long-term, but how do we feel about the Matt Chapman situation going into his last year here under contract?
Well, obviously, I mean, straight up, like I'm a fan of the game of baseball before the Blue Jays. I love the Blue Jays being a Canadian and all, but my favorite player, but when we first kind of, this podcast was a seed in my mind, it was Oakland A's Matt Chapman. And I mean, I just about tossed my cookies in excitement when he came aboard this ball club. I mean, it was it was a great day, man. I mean, I thought Twitter was playing a joke on me. I honest to God did. So we're talking the dollar value attached to Matt Chapman, and honestly, for him to make a big splash in the dollar and for term for the length of a contract, I mean, he would have to have put together a pretty good year. I think the blue chip that was once attached to Chapman is gone. I think a lot of that to do with the batting average. I mean, the defense is I mean, in the 99th or the 1 percentile on third base. He's one of the best fielding third basemen ever. And maybe only to be overtaken by a guy like Arenado. But yeah, I think that he's going to have a really good season for him to collect the dollar. I think the Blue Jays would be willing to give him something for sure, offer him a deal. But if he plays himself out of Toronto, Jesse, then he plays himself out of Toronto, and he's done that for our team, and it's gotten the Blue Jays to whatever. Because I mean, if he goes out, Jesse, and hits 25 home runs and hits 225, the price on a player like that still plays elite defense, don't get me wrong, I think the Blue Jays could afford a guy like that. But if he goes out and hits 36, 37 home runs and boosts that average up to maybe 250-ish and has, the the Matt Chapman's on base percentage. He's very good at drawing walks. He's very good at having good at bats. Even with the swing and miss in his game, Jesse, he can still draw out lengthy at bats and get on base. He finds himself on base a lot. So, but I mean, there's a good chance that he is a Blue Jay next year on what would be, not a long-term deal, 4-year contract, something like that. I know players like them, like longer deals, but I mean, I can't see him getting a seven-year deal. I mean, and if it is a 7-year deal attached to it, it won't be from the Blue Jays. Sadly, it'll be from another team who's paying him big bucks, and that's only because Matt Chapman would have had a phenomenal year. So yeah, I mean, in my head, Jesse, I'm kind of thinking that he won't be a Blue Jay next year. We don't know 100%. Obviously, I would like to have him till his career plays out. Or if my other option is like Oakland just gets better and he goes back to Oakland and plays third base there. There's only two things I really want to see. And the one isn't happening. He's not going back there, but a good chance he could go to a California club, but I'm split down the middle. Of course, Jesse, you want to see if he plays well, a really good third baseman, but yes, there are other options in our organization as well.
Because it's going to go one of two ways. Either Matt Chapman, has that monster season like you talked about, right? He hits 35 home runs, he hits 250. Well, then the Jays, like, what does Matt Chapman have to accept a contract offer from us then, right? He's like, no, like, I'm having a monster year. I'm going to go to free agency, get what I'm worth. And if he's bad, he hits like 20 home runs, 220, then are we sure we want to give Matt Chapman a massive extension, right? It kind of goes both ways. So I think no matter what happens, he's playing out this year on the last year of his deal without a contract extension. But we'll see. A lot can change between now and the end of the regular season. Maybe something unexpected happens. We do not know. Riley, I have one more piece of note here before we get to the Blue Jays promotional giveaways, and that's a big front office thing. And the Blue Jays today actually made a pretty big deal, like a pretty big signing. And we signed former Astros general manager James Click, who was the guy who pretty much started the Houston Astros dynasty. And he is now our vice president to go along with Mark Shapiro. And he is, quote, a baseball strategist this year, which is an interesting term. But he, like I said, he was a big reason they became a dynasty. And you can see why the Blue Jays had interest in a guy like this. And as long as, he's not cheating, we're not doing sign signal stuff going on through here, right? He should be exactly what our front office needs. And Riley, if you look at all the guys that the Blue Jays have now brought into our coaching staff / our front office, like we mentioned Victor Martinez last episode. We talked about Don Mattingly when the Blue Jays hired him. Edwin Encarnacion, who a lot of people like, is now working in our front office as well. And now with James Click, it seems like the Jays have really added a good mix of guys here who are around the game and are proven winners. And they're taking this very seriously, which honestly, as they should.
I am special assistant to Mike Shapiro, is what they're all saying right now. That is, of course, Peter Brand from a quote from probably the best movie that was ever made. I love to bring in baseball personnel for baseball teams, guys who know baseball. I don't want these pencil pushers who don't know what the difference between a rosin bag and a baseball are. I want real guys who know what it takes. The special assistants, the vice presidents, whoever that would be. So yeah, if we can get a guy who's won, let's put it out in the air, Jesse. And that's, it was he was around when the cheating scandal was, whatever. Obviously that's not going to happen again. Like, that would just be ridiculous, and I don't think our organization.
Think he learned his lesson, right? Like,
our organization simply would not allow behavior such as that. There's the door, kind of thing. Yeah. I do like we're bringing in winners. Victor Martinez is a guy who's been around the game, Gold Glover. He's had to have won one on first. I know he's won one at catcher. And then we got a guy like Edwin, who, I mean, his I don't know if his name will ever be on the roll of excellence. So there's a real good. I think it should be too, Jesse. But 10's a really good number to wear. I don't know if I can't retire that. 10 is a really good number. Hey, bring guys around the game of baseball that know the game of baseball. It's simple, man. So I like that, man. Like I said, I don't care if it's the janitor. I don't care if it's the CEO. Bring in guys around the game that know the game of baseball.
I think it's going to be good. And not only do they know the game of the baseball, by all reports, they're good characters, good leaders. And hey, a team can always use more leaders when it comes to trying to build a championship winning team. So nothing but respect here. And I'm excited to see how this plays about. But Riley, with that being said, The Blue Jays just announced their promotional giveaways, and I know you like promotional giveaways. I like promotional giveaways. I know the fans love a good promotional giveaway. And here's what they have, and we'll put them up on screen for you guys watching on YouTube so you can see what they are. But April 12th, and the Jays have a lot actually coming out early this year, and there always is the rule that they might just throw one that they don't have announced right now. But the Jays actually have 3 giveaways in the first month of April, and the first one will be a Vladimir Guerrero Gold Glove bobblehead. And if you've seen it, it's kind of great because he's doing the splits, which we saw Vladdy do quite a bit at first base this year. So that's one exciting about. 2 weeks later, on April 24th, they're having a Jordan Romano / Danny Jansen, like giving a handshake at the end of getting to the save bobblehead. And then April 28th, they have a George Springer replica new blue jersey, which looks like all your other new blue jerseys with George Springer on it. Those ones are always popular. Then we have to wait 2 months. June 28th, we're getting the Kevin Gausman replica splitter jersey, which is interesting because it's Gausman, but half of it's blue, half of it's white. We'll get our takes on that a little at the end here. Very interesting. I don't think the Blue Jays have ever done anything like that before. And then they have 2 more. August 16th is a simple Vladdy blue replica jersey, kind of like the George Springer one, except it's the royal blue instead of the navy blue. And on September 15th, we're going to have a Jose Barrios bobblehead. And I don't think the Jays have released the design of the Jose Barrios bobblehead yet. So we'll have to wait and see as we get a look at that, Riley. But with those 6 things, hey, open ballpark. What do you like? Do you like them, hate them, love them? What do you got?
So it's kind of like the one of these things just doesn't belong here. Let's start with the best and then go down. Because
Sure.
I don't want to
Okay.
don't want to bury the lead, but let's go with this. Okay. Cool bobblehead from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I mean, there could easily be a home run one, whatever. He won a Gold Glove, so we're gonna do something on the defensive side. The splits one looks that's a very unique bobblehead.
Yeah, you don't see that often, eh?
I really like that one. Then the next one, because I'm a bobblehead guy. Me and my grandfather went to a lot of Jays games for a long time to collect the bobbleheads. I mean, we have tons and tons of bobbleheads, man. The other one being the closer catcher, the Romano Jansen one.
That one's my favorite.
That's another unique one that I really do like as well. I mean, because it's the stuff we've seen Vladdy do in the splits. We've seen Jansen come out to the hill after a save. Like it's relatable stuff. It's real cool. I think they picked good players for the replica jerseys. I think Vladdy's great. I think a George Springer one's real good too. I mean, I don't necessarily mind the. Hold on a second, because it'll go into this, but I don't necessarily mind, Jesse, when I've chosen games where I don't care what color the jersey is. Now, that being said, I think that the Kevin Gausman jersey looks ridiculous.
I think I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
I do not like it. I get it. The splitter jersey, man. That's so. Just give me a white one or give me a blue one.
Right.
If I go to that game, Jesse, I can tell you one thing. I might give that jersey to a kid whose parents didn't get into the gate until game time. I'm not going to throw it in the trash. I'm going to put it to good use. But I like to wear the jerseys that they give away because a lot of them are good. It's light material. You can wear them in the summer with another shirt underneath. They're really light. Obviously, they're not grade A material. But with this Gausman one, I just can't find myself wearing it. Like it reminds me of, the players got the split. It seems to be a new thing. Like the only time you should be wearing a split jersey, Jesse, is if you're the parent of 2 sons
Bingo.
playing in a game against each other is the only acceptable time to wear a split jersey. If you got whoever, if Lourdes Senior goes to a game 3 years ago with Lourdes and Yuli, he can wear half Astros, half Blue Jays. That's cool. But to have the black and the white, just like I see what they were trying to do, but a huge L on that part, man. But hey, bobbleheads look fantastic. I can't wait to see what the Brios one is.
I'm with you on the splitter jersey, man. And I was going to make the same point. The Contreras brothers do the same thing. I think their mom has a split jersey of the 2 Contreras brothers doing that. But I think this is gross. I get it. They're trying to be cute, man. I've also never really liked. Do you remember the Kevin Pillar superhero jersey that they wore where it had the cape coming off the back of it?
Yeah.
I still see that every now and again at the Rogers Center when I'm walking through there. And I don't think I like that either. I'm pretty sure I have one, honestly, somewhere. I'm pretty sure I just ripped the cape off of it. But yeah, hey, mad props for creativity, right? They got to do something cool. And I'm sure some people will like them. But to me, I don't like it. I'm just going to get my normal white road Kevin Gausman jersey and we're going to color at that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Honest to God, man, that's a good takeaway. Glad we're on the same page, Jesse. To our viewers and listeners, I don't think that we're crazy for thinking that. You guys have now, so if you're listening, go look up these Kevin Gosman promotional jerseys and let us know what you think. I personally
leave a comment down below.
Yeah, let us know. I mean, I don't think we're too crazy. I think a lot of people are in agreement, but I mean, hey, you could be different from us, and it could be your favorite thing in the world.
Riley, get creative here. If you had to design one ballpark promotional item that you could give away, like what would you do? It could be anything. Do you have something off the top of your head?
So I'm actually surprised they didn't do this, and I'm about to kind of put my foot in the mouth for something because
okay, sure, let's see it.
Because I sat here last week and blasted the home run celebrations, right?
Yes.
I did, and I stand by that. But I think if they're gonna bring the jacket back this year, I think that they should make they're going to be crappy little, they could be the same material, make little home run jackets for everybody or something.
So I think the fans could wear one too, right?
Exactly. I mean, first 20,000 get and I mean, the same material as the giveaway jersey. They don't have to be fantastically made. I mean, of course, you're not going to get real leather kind of stuff. I mean, the jerseys are different material and whatever else. That obviously that would be pretty nifty. I don't think there's a whole lot like that, but yeah, I'm a big fan of hats and stuff. But I mean, let's be honest, Jesse, the stuff at giveaways is not maybe the grade that you and I like. As far as the hats and the jerseys, we have more of an acquired taste when it comes to baseball paraphernalia. Sure. We like to feel like we're actually on the team. So we go out and we buy, we go to Lids and we'll buy our official on-field caps or official on-field jerseys. And it makes us feel like we're MLB players.
Or a $40 chain with the Blue Jay styrofoam thing on the end of it. That I know you and I both have.
I best purchase I made when I saw you with that after when I came into the ballpark. I was jealous the whole train ride. I was like, I gotta find one of those, and I'm wearing it to every game that I go to because it was $40.
Me too, man. I've got it hanging on my door over there. You can't see it, but I will be repping that at the Rogers Center this season. I cannot wait. And hey, I think that'll do it for our episode here today. We're gonna cut it a little short. I do want to say, guys, we are 4 episodes away from the official start of Major League season, and we've still got to take our look around the rest of the AL East. We've got to do our Blue Jays X Factors. We've got to do our Blue Jays bold takes, and we got to do a full-on season preview. So we are officially all seasons go. And for those of us who are new, who are sticking around and are joining us that weren't with us last year, we don't do hour-long episodes during the regular season. We kind of do about a 30-minute recap after every series. We usually give our thumbs up or we give stars on players we like. We talk about key pitching performances and we want to see next, and we usually try to preview the next series coming up. So hit subscribe so you can get to that all season long. If you're missing the banter between Riley and I and some little wit, we'll still have a little bit of that, but we're usually more business mode as we get into the regular season. So stay tuned for that. Riley, anything you want to add before we get out of here today?
Oh, we're all business here, baby. No fun and games. No, Jesse, we've been waiting for a long time for ball to fire up. We got 3 games to work with. We talked about the 3 games. We're ready to rock and roll. We still got lots to talk about that's going to happen in spring. And of course, man, the World Baseball Classic, which I personally love. I've always been a fan of international ice hockey. And I love baseball, probably more than hockey at this point in my life. So international baseball is great, man. I'm super stoked for that. And obviously the start of the regular season is just a short little while away, man.
Gonna be a big month for baseball, and I'm excited. I know you are excited. And guys, remember, leave a comment down below. And before we run, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all the good stuff. We just hit our first 100 followers on TikTok, so we're not doing too bad for an account over not even a few weeks old there. So we're doing okay. Guys, thank you again. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.